Okay, hey everyone, so I need to do an update video on this Retro Fighters Brawler64 controller running on a real Nintendo 64 with a BlueRetro adapter. So yeah, this is the wireless Nintendo Switch controller that's meant to be a replacement for the official NSO controller that Nintendo sells. So in theory it's really cool, but if you saw the video I made a few weeks ago where I tested this out with the new BlueRetro firmware, there still were quite a few bugs with this controller even after updating the BlueRetro adapter. However, in that video someone left me a comment saying that there was actually an update for this Brawler64 which supposedly fixes at least the rumble problem that I was having, where basically the rumble, when it would stop rumbling, it would just keep rumbling for a really long time. So anyway, I updated this controller to version 1.15.1. So I'm just gonna go ahead and connect this controller. I have it synced, so yeah, it just connects really quickly. There's one thing I like about it, that it connects really quickly. But now, as you can see on this test, so like when I push A, it thinks it's B, it thinks B is A, and then also the C buttons are all mixed up, pushing Z and all sorts of strange things like that. Yeah, this ZR is C, right? So anyway, there's just a bunch of stuff that's still not working correctly. However, I found that when you turn on the rumble, so you can see, if you push Z and A at the same time, you'll turn on the rumble, which I think in this case is, I think this one is Z. Yeah, that is Z. So if I push Z and B, yeah, so rumble is on, and then it turns off. And now, actually the buttons are, oh yeah, the buttons are still messed up. So I found that when I do this enough, it's like when I mess around with the rumble enough, then it starts to work. It's like it takes a while to, it's like once I turn the rumble on and off, then the buttons are mapped correctly. So now, you see now this is B, and this is A, and the C buttons are working as well. So yeah, it's just a little weird. So it's like you almost have to play a little bit with this controller and then get something to make your controller rumble, and then the buttons will be mapped correctly. Yeah. However, there still are some problems that I have with this. I mean, besides the fact that if you're playing a game where there isn't any rumble, then I don't know if this controller is really going to work. Yeah, but besides that, oh, and by the way, I should also mention that, you know, this controller does have a Pro Controller mode. Yeah, if your buttons are still not working even after it's rumbling, then yeah, just push this button to make sure it's in NSO N64 mode, because yeah, I don't think the Pro Controller mode is really ideal for this controller either. But yeah, I still have some problems though with this controller even after the update. First off, it seems like the rumble problem is kind of solved. At least they found a workaround, but it's still not perfect. So like for example, if I push Z plus A, that should turn on rumble, and then it should be like a constant rumble. See, right now it's not turned on at all, but it's like when it does turn on, oh, that's because I had to turn it off. That's right. So Z plus B on this control test is to turn it off, and then Z plus A is to turn it on. So it's like they just did kind of a lazy update, I think. I don't know, maybe it was a really hard thing to do, so I don't want to necessarily say they were lazy, but it's definitely not complete. So basically what happens is, basically when there's any rumble signal sent to this controller, they let it rumble a little bit. So the developers of this firmware let it rumble a little bit, and then just after like a second they turn off the rumble, and then it just doesn't turn back on. Because like right now with this test, it should be rumbling non-stop, but it just rumbles for like a half second and then just turns off, which I guess maybe is probably better than just rumbling non-stop. I mean, yeah, they probably just put a timer in there, say, okay, if this is rumbling more than a second, then just turn it off. But yeah, definitely not ideal, because if you're in a game where there is more than just a second worth of rumble, then that's not going to be good. So like for example, I have the original Brawler64, that's the wired one that connects directly to Nintendo 64, and you can see when I turn on the rumble on here, it's rumbling non-stop and it doesn't turn off until I turn it off. So that's the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, granted, this is an improvement over the previous firmware, which just would rumble continuously for like until it would receive another rumble signal. But yeah, but still definitely not ideal. So that's one problem I still have with this controller. And then another problem is, and again, I don't even know if this can be fixed, but I'm just gonna bring it up because it's still a problem since my last video. But the control stick is just not that good. Like I really like the form factor of this controller, and it feels great, but man, it just has some weird issues with it. So, like for example, when I push left, you can see it just like it really just jumps, and not like I'm pushing pretty steadily like to the left, and it's like jumping all over the place. You can see the that white dot there, and same thing with like if I move up here, it's like it's just not accurate at all. Plus it goes like way outside of bounds. But yeah, same thing with like going down, like yeah, and then plus there's still like a really big dead zone, so like I actually have to move the control stick a bit before it starts to register, which is really unfortunate because you can see from the original Brawler64, the wired one, this one has a much smaller dead zone, so it's a lot more accurate, and there's still a little bit of jumping, but it's not nearly as much. Yeah, and you can see like even going up here, like it's still not the most accurate controller, but it's way better than the other one. And then yeah, it doesn't go as far out of bounds too on these corners, a little bit, but it's not nearly as much. So I don't know, I just like, this is a cool form factor, the wired one, but man, I wish this wireless version was better. And then just to show this in game, so like for example, I still have this connected. I haven't disconnected it, so the button should be mapped correctly. And yeah, the rumble did turn off. So before my previous video, before I updated this controller, when I would blow fire, it would just rumble, like it would still be rumbling right now. It was a big problem. But now at least it does turn off. However, now let me show you the problem. So if I push the sync button on this controller, which is on the back here, just to turn it off, then if I wait for this BlueRetro to go into sync mode again. Yep, now it's in sync mode. So now I'm going to hold down the sync button to resync it. And watch, the buttons are going to be all mapped strangely, I bet. So watch this. So when I push A, it thinks A is B, and B, oh well now, let's see, now it's working because since it rumbled. So it's like once it rumbles, then it's like it switches into the right weapon mode. Or I mean, not weapon mode, the control buttons mapping, like the buttons are mapped correctly. However, this could still be a problem because, like, for example, let's say that you're playing without rumble on, so I turned off the controller again, and I'm going to resync it. Okay, and now, so the cool thing about this BlueRetro adapter is that you can switch between memory pack mode and rumble mode just by pushing the home button. And so I'm going to push the home button to turn into memory pack mode, and now you can see there's no rumble, so now it thinks that A is B, and it's not going back into place. And it's like, this isn't jumping, this is, okay, that one is. It's like, this is just mapped very wrongly. Like this is jump 2 apparently. And yeah, there's no way to get it to go back into the correct mode because I'm in memory pack mode. And so so in order to get this to then snap into the right button mappings, I need to go into rumble mode. And then I need to push these buttons, and now it's going to be mapped correctly. So again, I commemorate Retro Fighters for at least pushing an update for this that I guess was trying to fix compatibility with the BlueRetro controller or adapter on the real Nintendo 64, but it's still not perfect. But yeah, guys, make sure you subscribe because if we can get this fixed, then I will definitely do an update video on it. But yeah, please let me know what you think or if there's anything else you want me to test. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.